Equus, Scene 7.
Mrs. Strang?
Mr. Strong's still at the press, I'm afraid. He should be home in a minute.
He works Sundays as well.
Oh, yes. He doesn't set much store by Sundays.
Perhaps you know, and I could have talked before he comes in.
Certainly. Won't you come into the living room? Please.
Mrs. Strang, have you any idea how this could have occurred?
I can't imagine, Doctor. It's all so unbelievable. Alan's always been such a gentle boy. He loves animals, especially horses.
Especially?
Yes, he even has a photograph of one up in his bedroom. A beautiful white one, looking over a gate. His father gave it to him a few years ago, of a calendar he'd printed, and he's never taken it down. And when he was 7 or 8, I used to have reading him the same book over and over, all about a horse.
Really?
Yes, it was called Prince, and no one could write him.
Why not? Why not say it in his voice?
He loved the idea of animals talking.
Did he?
Say it, use his voice.
Because I'm faithful. My name is Prince, and I'm a prince among horses. Only my young master can write me. Anyone else, I'll throw off. And then I remember I used to tell him a funny thing about horses. Did you know that when Christian cavalry first appeared in the New World, the pagans thought horses and rider was one person?
Really?
One person?
Actually, they thought it must be a god.
A god?
It was only when one rider fell off they realized the truth.
That's fascinating. I never heard that before. Can you remember anything else like that you may have told him about horses?
Well, not really. They're in the Bible, of course. He sat among the trumpets. Ha.
Ha.
The book of Job. Such a novel passage, you know. Hast thou given the horse strength?
Hast thou clothed his neck with thunder?
The glory of his nostrils is terrible.
He swallows the ground with fierceness and rage.
He sat among the trumpets.
Ha ha!
Isn't that splendid?
It certainly is.
Ha ha!
And then, of course, we saw an awful lot of westerns on the television. He couldn't have enough of those.
But surely you don't have a set, do you? I understand Mr. Strang doesn't approve.
He doesn't. I used to let him sleep off in the afternoons to a friend next door.
You mean without his father's knowledge?
What the eye does not see, the heart does not grieve over. That's it. Westerns are harmless enough, surely. Oh, hello, dear. This is Dr. Dysart.
How do you do?
How'd you do?
I was just telling the doctor, Alan's always adored horses.
We assume he did.
You know he did, dear. Look how he liked the photograph you gave him.
What about it?
Nothing, dear, just that he pestered you to give it as soon as he saw it. Do you remember? Doctor, we've always been a horsey family. At least my side of it has. My grandfather used to ride every morning on the downs behind Brighton, all dressed up in bowler, hat, and jodhpurs. He used to look splendid, indulging in equitation, he called it.
Equitation.
I remember I told him how that came from equus, the Latin word for horse. Alan was fascinated by that word, I know. I suppose because he'd never come across with two used together before.
Equus.
I always wanted the boy to write himself. He'd have so enjoyed it.
But surely he did?
No,
Never.
he didn't care for it. He was most definite about not wanting to.
But he must have had to at the stables. I mean, it would be part of the job.
You'd have thought so. But no, he absolutely wouldn't. Wouldn't he, dear?
It seems he was perfectly happy raking out manure.
Didn't he ever give a reason for this?
No. I must say we both thought it most peculiar, but he wouldn't discuss it. I mean, you thought he'd be longing to get out in the air after being cooped up all the week in that dreadful shop. Electrical and kitchenware. Isn't that an environment for a sensitive boy, Doctor?
Dear, have you offered the doctor a cup of tea?
Oh, dear, no, I haven't. And you must be dying for one.
That would be nice.
Of course it will. Excuse me. Let's see if I can hear from here.
My wife has romantic ideas, if you receive my meaning.
About her family?
She thinks she married beneath her. I dare say she did. I don't understand these things myself.
Mr. Strang, I'm fascinated by the fact that Alan wouldn't ride.
Yes, well, that's him. He's always been a weird lad, I have to be honest. Can you imagine spending your weekends like that? Just cleaning out stalls, with all the things that he could have been doing in the way of further education?
Except he's a hardly scholar.
How do we know? He's never really tried. His mother indulged him. She doesn't care if he can hardly write his own name, and she's a school teacher that was. Just as long as he's happy, she says.
Would you say she was closer to him than you are?
They've always been thick as thieves. I can't say I entirely approve, especially when I hear her whispering the Bible to him hour after hour, up there in his room.
Your wife is religious.
Some might say excessively so. Mind you, that's her business. But when it comes to dosing it down the boy's throat, well, frankly, he's my son as well as hers. She doesn't see that, of course. That's the funny thing about religious people. They always think their susceptibilities are more important than non-religious.
And you're non-religious, I take it.
I'm an atheist, and I don't mind admitting it. If you want my opinion, it's the Bible that's responsible for all this.
Why?
Well, look at it yourself. A boy spends night after night having this stuff read into him, an innocent man tortured to death, thorns driven into his head, nails into hands, a spear jammed through his ribs. It can mark anyone for life, that kind of thing. I'm not joking. The boy was absolutely fascinated by all that. He was always mooning over religious pictures. I mean really kinky ones, if you receive my meaning. I had to put a stop to it once or twice. Bloody religion. It's our only real problem in this house, but it's insuperable. I don't mind admitting it.
You must excuse my husband, Doctor. This one subject is something of an obsession with him, isn't it, dear? You must admit.
Call it what you like. All that stuff to me is just bad sets.
And what has that got to do with Alan?
Everything. Everything, Dora.
I don't understand. What are you saying?
Mr. Strang, exactly how I informed you did you judge your son to be about sex?
I don't know.
You didn't actually instruct him yourself.
Not in so many words. No.
Did you, Mrs. Strang?
Well, I spoke a little, yes. I had to. I've been a teacher, Doctor, and I know what happens if you don't. They found out through magazines and dirty books.
What sort of thing did you tell him? I'm sorry if this is embarrassing.
I told him the biological facts, but I also told him what I believe, that sex is not just a biological matter, but spiritual as well. That if God willed, he would fall in love one day. That his task was to prepare himself for the most important happening of his life. And after that, if he was lucky, he might come to know a higher love still. I simply don't understand. Alan!
There now, Dora. Come on.
Alright, laugh. Laugh as usual.
No one's laughing, Dora. No one's laughing, are they, Doctor?
Oh, Frank.